I think we're live. So hi everyone and welcome to Urban Design Talks. Today we have the privilege of being joined by Marcial Jesus, the founder of 100 Architects Studio. At 100 Architects, Marcial and his team believe that play is the purest form of creativity. That's why they approach cities as playgrounds for all ages and social status. So today, I think that we'll hear about their mission and how to create high quality, innovative, and inclusive public spaces that stimulate the senses and transform the way we experience our urban environments. So get ready and let's get inspired by 100 Architects' work. And of course, as always, we encourage you to use the chat box to share any questions or thoughts you would like Marcial to see and answer. So thanks a lot and sit back and let's get started. Marcial?
All right, thank you very much for the invitation. And let's get started. Okay, you can see my screen, yes? Just to check, right?
Yes, yeah, we can. Okay. Perfect.
All right. All right, well, again, thank you very much. My name is Marcial Jesus, and I'm the founder, partner, and the managing director of 100 Architects. And our studio is essentially, just as a quick introduction, is based in Shanghai. And our studio is also, 100 Architects is operating since about 10 years ago already. I founded this company back in 2013. And to be honest, maybe the first 3-4 years were more of a side business. At the beginning, 2013 is the moment where the idea is, it comes to somehow to my mind, and it's also the year in which the name of the company was coined. But about 3-4 years later is when the company actually became a real business. And well, our company is located, as I said before, in Shanghai. But from Shanghai, we develop projects not only in China, but in this moment we have actually running projects in Europe, in the US, in Australia, and the Middle East. In the photos, you can see our office in Shanghai. And despite being a small company, our operations have reached a global scale. We develop projects in many places around the world. Why? Because I believe that we have a very particular concept, a very particular company concept, a very particular, our brand is very particular and noticeable for many reasons. In this moment, 100 Architects is composed of 18 employees, where 40% are international and 60% are Chinese. We have a good mix, a good variety of designers and people working with us. So what is 100 Architects? We don't do standard designs, right? We rather do something that we call the hyper-stimulating architecture, working in public or semi-public spaces, generating urban landmarks that function as people attractors. So all the projects that we design, essentially they establish themselves as people attractors. This concept is something that has helped us to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. We don't do regular landscape architecture. We specialize, as we said, in public spaces and spaces for entertainment. Public spaces and spaces for entertainment that have this function, as I explained before, for attracting users to certain areas of the city. So our mission is essentially to improve our cities and the experience of citizens in the public realm by providing high quality, innovative, and stimulating designs, inclusive and accessible to everyone. And we take this mission very seriously because we truly believe that working in the public realm is a privilege. Why? Because it's where our action as designers have the widest possible reach has the biggest and largest impact in the biggest amount of people. So I think that to work in the public space in general is a privilege. It's much more meaningful to me than working, doing, let's say, a design of architecture itself. And because of that reason, we normally introduce our company as an architectural company that doesn't do buildings, doesn't do architecture, at least not in the conventional way. We actually do some buildings as well, but it's not in the conventional way because we through our experimental way of seeing, we believe that doing this transformation between what the current landscape is to what we dream of that could be the cities of tomorrow. So we believe in this idea of the hyper-stimulating future, that the cities will have this hyper-stimulating infrastructure for the future of cities. We essentially generating innovative solutions that encourage the occurrence of social dynamics. Why we do this way? Well, we believe that the new generations are experience seekers. They prefer to invest in meaningful and memorable life experiences. In that regard, it's not enough, like it used to be in the past, by laying out trees, green areas, benches, and lighting features in order to have a public space that represents the spirit of time. This word this concept is a concept that I really like, that I like a lot, the spirit of time. I think that it was in English, or it's not English, I think it's German, it's called Zeitgeist, right? And I think that is a word coined by Hegel, the philosopher. That means that there's some objects that they really incarnate all the state of the art of its time, and they represent the spirit of time so well that they don't have time anymore. They become timeless objects. So I believe that public spaces in general don't have evolved that much in the last, let's say, 100 years as other things, as for example, building technology. Therefore, this is, in a way, our answer of what we believe that the spirit of time for the public space should incarnate. And why is this way? Well, it's pretty obvious, right? Like, kids today are not the same as we used to be. They are exposed to a different kind of sensory stimulation. I normally say that our projects need to compete with a computer. They need to compete with an iPad. They need to be equally exciting, right? Nowadays, kids really love, and not only kids, I'm talking about young people in general, like with all the stimulation that we receive from the social media and also from the devices that we use daily, the kind of interaction that we are looking for when we also have a public space for young people to interact with. It needs to be, this interaction needs to be much more intense than it used to be with the public spaces of the past. Other point as well is that we somehow don't see our projects as problem solvers, right? Like normally in the architecture schools, I think that a very common way of teaching architecture to the new generations is always the professors would always tell the students to kind of like study the site location and to figure out the different problems that the place have. Therefore, the project of architecture can become a solution for the problems that have been identified in the place. So somehow we are not saying that this is wrong, probably that this is actually the right way to produce architecture in the conventional way. But when we do architecture at our studio, we don't see the project as a problem solver, but instead we see it as a catalyst for social and commercial opportunities. We see it as a opportunity generator. And it's a completely different approach, because in our way of approaching design, for us, really, we want architecture, we are not here to solve the problem, we are here to create opportunities, which is a different approach. And in that regard, we consider our office as an experimental laboratory for creative urban solutions, where the concept of playground has changed. The playground is not the same that it used to be. It's not this small space in the center of the plaza where kids are playing by themselves, protected, and parents are kind of outside waiting until the kids are done playing, right? This is not the way that it works anymore. The limits of those two spaces are blurred. The play area is not only for kids, it's also for adults. And there's many more differences that we are going to see in the coming slides. So the key factors for successful hyper-stimulating urban interventions. This is, by the way, before I introduce them, it's not only, this is essentially our recipe to do interventions, hyper-stimulating urban interventions. But obviously, I'm not going to mention the factors that all public spaces should have, such as inclusivity, access to green areas, universal accessibility, and so on and so forth. So the first one of our first guidelines when we start doing a project is contrast with its context. For us, this is quite important. I mean, the project needs to be remarkable, iconic, colorful, eye-catching. Normally, we say architecture without ground. What does it mean, architecture without ground? It means that it looks like you can grab it and put it somewhere else. It means it looks like it was not done for this place. It looks like it's an object on top of the place, right? And we're aware of that. It's on purpose. And which is not really true, because every project that we do is tailor-made for the place, but it looks like it's independent from its context, which is also different to the way that traditional architecture is being created. In the school, we learn to do architecture that blends itself with the surrounding. Well, not at 100 Architects. Aesthetic independency. So it needs to be recognizable by itself, without mimicking the surrounding, resembling something in the collective imaginary. What does it mean? It means that when we design a project, we want it to not, let's say, similar. It follows the previous point, right? It needs to have some the aesthetic independency of a particular object pre-existed already in the collective imaginary of the regular user. What do I mean by that? I mean that when you look at our projects, we want the user to imagine that, to recognize the image and to think that, and to make a connection with some pre-existing image in their brains, in their minds. By that, I'm saying that when they look at our projects, they will see, for example, an Arab gate, or they will see, for example, a bird, an animal, or they will actually see that geometry and recognize the shape easily, because they have an aesthetic independency. They need to be pop and controversial. Pop, because it's easy to digest, it's colorful, it's eye-catching, but controversial because it's disrupting, but likable. It's disrupting, why? Because it's using the space that belongs to everyone. It's using the public space. It needs to be somehow embedded with urban instant functions. It needs to be accessible, approachable. It needs to be the morphology itself. That's why we play so much with the morphology of the objects, because the morphology needs to invite to touch, and by touching, by having this close relationship with the project, with the object, it invites to have this instant interaction and function. And because of the previous as well, I can say that all of our projects need to foster interactions. What kind of interactions? Well, from digital interaction, physical interaction, interaction among users, and social interactions in general. And this is one of the most important factors, the fantasy and surprise. Every project has a narrative. The projects have a narrative, and this narrative is something that every single element of the proposal passes through this filter, creating this environment that makes you feel like you are in another world. This experience becomes a surprise, as the projects try to establish themselves as surprises in the public realm. And then, well, we could take another turn to talk about why it's so important to play in the city. What is particular about that? Well, as we believe that playing is actually the purest form of creativity. Therefore, it's really important for humans to explore in that way. Playful learning is a concept in psychology that has been found to be most effective and significant for a form of learning, providing opportunities for new experiences and active engagement. And from a neurobiological perspective, playful learning allows children to learn from peers and adults, building cognitive, communication, and collaborative skills in a fun and entertaining way. That's the reason why all the objects that we design, in a way, they have intricate topographies, and they are unusual, and they require creativity to know how to use them, to know how to enjoy them. So we like to design objects that are as we call them, object plazas, that the object itself can host people on top of them. Therefore, many interactions can take place on top of them. This essentially sparks creativity, and also they trigger social interactions. So all the different objects that we design and we place in the public space, they have always this intricate topography, and they have always different cavities and different ways of using it, allowing the user to explore and to figure out their own way of enjoying them. This is, for example, and essentially they are rather simple. This is essentially a shaded structure, a bench, and a swing, right? But it's all together under the fantasy and under the immersive experience of a garden. Therefore, there's this flower appearing that bends over, creating this loop and providing of a space for sitting, for shadow, and for swinging. So for us, it's so important to stimulate the user by providing those colorful landscapes and integrate topographies that allow users to interact closely with the object and space, which is something I believe quite different from traditional landscape architecture. We want to allow this connection between the object and the space and the user. We want to create this close relationship between the user and the space and the objects that are in the space. We want to invite the user to hang, to swing, to lie down, to lounge, to watch, to climb, to sit down. And by the way, sitting down is a tremendous activity that has such a deep impact on humans. It's not just sitting. You have many different kinds of sitting depending on the angle of the rest of the back support. And the configuration between different seatings also create different social interactions between the people sitting. You have a lounge seating, you have a kind of a straight back seating, you have a stool seating, and then when you arrange them in different positions, you also provide a space for being different platforms for different interactions. So we play a lot with that. And ultimately, it comes to the point that play is not only for kids. We all want to play in the city because the city is our playground. And at the end of the day, we design those spaces, as I was saying before, where the limits between the playing area and the rest of the urban escape are blurred. That means that those spaces are where the city becomes a playground and the playground becomes the city. This project is a very large project that we were invited to design in our United Arab Emirates, and it's a proposal for a beachfront more than 1.5 kilometers length, and you can see how the entire space is treated like if it was essentially a playground. It's a space for entertainment that is dedicated for visitors and trying to establish this beach as a new attraction for the area. And now I'm gonna pass through to the next part of this presentation, which is focusing essentially the most recent and more significant projects that we have built in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years. So the first project that I want to visit and show you is this project, the Picasso Trail. This project was built, if I'm not wrong, on 2020, right after the pandemic was started, more or less. And this project is very interesting, and it was very meaningful for us because it's essentially the first project of this scale, at least, that we do in a public open space, 100% open to public 100% of the time. So it was actually very meaningful for us. It's called Picasso Trail because the client, in fact, wanted to do a project that was inspired on a horse. So we did this ribbon that revolves around the circular plazas. The circular plazas are intended for adults, let's say, more of a resting areas. And then the ribbon itself is a playing ribbon that has different segments intended for different age groups. And the main player, of course, is the head of the horse. Obviously, at night, all our projects include those amazing LED lights that make it look super, super attractive at night. This project is located in Chongqing. And as I said before, it's beside one of the metro stations. It's a public space. It's absolutely open 100% of the time. It's a really fun project because it has such a successful mix between things to do on the project, from areas for kids. Then there's this play equipment that is very large, very high. It reaches like about, I think, 13 meters high, where kids can climb up, as you are seeing in the video, and then slide down. So it's a very interesting project that has a variety of uses. This is the main play equipment, right, with the shape of the horse. And those are the plazas that are intended for, let's say, resting areas. Obviously, also we design the lighting structures, we design the shading structures, we also design the greenery around. And let me just continue for the next one. This other project is called The Nest. The Nest is a project that is inspired on this fantasy of the nest, of a nest, 3 birds in the center as the main play equipment, and everything is kind of like done with a composition based on circles. This is the top view of the proposal. We designed this project. We designed in this project pretty much everything: pavements, green areas, lighting features, play equipment. Those are the main images. There's also a sandpit, shading structures in shape of eggs, right? They look like eggs that have been hatched recently. This is the video of the project, and is built in Chengdu. Chengdu is built in Chengdu in a residential area of the city. So it's in the center, surrounded by residential buildings. So it's full of kids all the time. Also, the main play equipment. Our projects always have this centerpiece, right? There's the project is normally all the space is covered by different colors, patterns, and different kind of games, but sitting features, so on and so forth. But in the center, there's always a main, let's say, what we call it, intellectual property item that we essentially design, we give to the client, we never use again. And it's something that can become somehow the brand of our client, right? So in this case, is display equipment. The one that you are seeing now is the 3 birds that are kind of sharing this worm, and this worm that becomes a ladder up to the play equipment and then a slide down. There's a ball, a sand pit, there's a ping pong table, but obviously with a twist, it's rounded, etc. So there's so many things interesting in this playground. Also, there's a sport court where you can actually play basketball or something. This other project, actually, this project is older. This also was very meaningful at that point because it's one of our first projects, kind of like more serious permanent project. At the beginning, a lot of the projects that I show at the beginning of the presentation, they were some of them were of a temporary nature. What do I mean by that? I mean that they were on site for maybe no longer than maybe I don't know, 6 months, 1 year. This is our first actual real permanent project, and it was built in 2018. It's interesting. It's called Pixelan because every pixel has a different function. There's 4 types of pixels. Some of them are for learning, some of them are green areas, some of them are resting areas, some of them are playing areas. And then after we have these isolated functions in each of them, we kind of mix them in with different patterns, and some of them were more aleatory, some of them were a little bit more designed, and at the end we kind of evaluated them and chose the best direction that we thought that it was the final outcome. So it's very interesting because it was in a way very experimental in the way that we conceived this proposal. Every pixel is a different function. And in the center, as I said before, there's always this item that is the main item, the main play equipment. As I said before, we call it the IP object, you know, the intellectual property object that the client will actually use to sell and to promote. This is a video that we did many years ago, but you can see the more or less the nature of the space and how many objects and different interesting features it has, from small slides, greenery, or even the greenery around is also designed with the same idea of the pixels that go from big to small, right? We also designed the greenery of this project as well. Jumping nets, merry-go-round, the swings, of course, lighting features, ramps. In the center, there's kind of this higher level, so all the pixels kind of comes to a higher point in the center where the IP object, the horse box, the main play equipment, is located. Chairs to sit down, to lay down, different kind of seating, as I explained before, shading structures, so on and so forth. This project is the Octopus Kingdom. I'm going to take the opportunity here to explain this idea of the privately owned public spaces. So we work a lot in public spaces, but as I said before, in China and in a lot of cities, the way that the cities actually approach the problem of the public spaces from a private perspective. A lot of times those developers, big developers that are developing a piece of the city, they are required by the government to develop and to provide public spaces for the city. So sometimes some developers are developing a big mixed-use proposal in an entire block or many blocks of the city, and they are required by the government to design, provide, and operate some spaces that are going to be private, belonging to the developers and to the investors, but they will be operated by the private entity, but providing free access and providing quality spaces for the public. We are many times hired for these kind of developers. This project particularly is on the rooftop of a shopping mall. So this is actually a private entity who had this shopping mall, and they had this rooftop and they wanted to activate the rooftop. In this case, they require to design this space that is not public space, but has very similar dynamics. It has free access. Anyone can access during daytime at least, and it's a project POPs, as we call it, privately owned public spaces, have very similar or virtually the same dynamics than a public space. The only difference is that they are operated by private entity. Well, this project is the Octopus Kingdom. As you can see, the main play equipment, the IP object, as I've been saying since a while ago, is the octopus itself, right? The main object that you see here. And it has the fantasy, the immersive experience, all related to the octopus in the beach. There's a village, they say, and the octopus kind of spreading its tentacles through the rooftop like that. Every tentacle is kind of a road with different games where kids can actually challenge themselves and get entertained by the activities that the octopus is providing. So this is the video. You can see how nice is the object on top of the rooftop, and each of the tentacles, how the tentacles are kind of providing also different activities. It's rather a small project, and it's a project intended for kids. Normally, we say, a lot of people think that we design playgrounds. We normally say that we don't. I mean, we design playgrounds, but we don't design playgrounds for kids only. We design public spaces, and always with an accent in entertainment. Well, this project particularly was intended for essentially a very much kids from the beginning to the start. This project instead, for example, Urban Ripple, is a project designed around an exhibition center in one row. This project is truly a public space where also we design from pavements, playing structures, and greenery around. There's this main plaza right in front of the exhibition center, which has all those shading structures, the kind of umbrellas shading structures right in front of this space. All the pavements were also designed by us, as I said before, and they are mimicking kind of the way that the river flows, right? That's why we call it urban ripple. There's the pavements actually, as you see, are essentially lines going through the project, kind of guiding the users through the proposal. There's tables with different games, right? All the things that we do always have this kind of embedded functions on it. Also, this project have those vertical play equipment, play structures where kids can climb up and then slide down. Different games to speak from different parts of the project, obviously. This is the main plaza right in front of the exhibition center, as you can see. We designed, as I said before, the green areas, the pavements that you see in the images now. And on top of the exhibition center, there's also this rooftop, right? We also designed this part of the rooftop. Sitting features, so on and so forth. All the sitting features, as I said before, they are all kind of playful, right? Those are hanging, for example. And this other project is called Over the Rainbow, like the song, because it mimics, it has this fantasy, right? Like to be on top of the rainbow. And it's a project that it needed to be rather cheap because the client wanted to be very conservative in his expenditure. So at the end, we ended up designing this project that is basically a color pavement in the floor with some objects on top. We have some ribbons on top, and as you can see, there's this kind of division between the space where the activation is taking place and behind where the equipment and conditionings are. So that's why those kind of like shapes are so important in order to block essentially the ugliness of the air conditioning and the undesirable appearance of the technical facilities that normally are located on a rooftop of a building. Therefore, we designed this facade, let's say, to block the view, but instead we took advantage of it, and every one of those shapes are essentially a selfie thing. So this is the project in motion. As you can see, it was a very big success. It is still very successful. There's a big queue every day to slide down from the slide that joins the 5th floor or the rooftop with one of the lower floors. Also, we have those rotating discs, very cool amphitheaters join the different levels. It's kind of the perfect place for influencers and the youngsters that like to post everything on the social media. This is actually our goal always, every time that we do a project. Hanging balls, ribbons with different activities on top, swings, obviously, and this that I was saying before, they rotate and they create this really fun experience. Obviously, also including instruments, musical instruments, and lighting at night, because this amazing to kind of to contribute to the amazing skyline of Shanghai, right? This project is located in Shanghai. This is the slide that I was talking about, and the lights at night, obviously, really, really amazing, with the amazing skyline just right in front. This project is the Lollipop Street. This project is a very recent project that we essentially, I think, that opened at the end of last year. I mean, I think it was November, or maybe a little bit earlier. And is our first project actually of this scale, at least our first project in Shanghai. It's in Lujiazui, the financial district of Shanghai, and it's also outside a commercial building. It's a very interesting project because it's simple yet effective. It's a project that it has also it's very graphic. It goes in the floor. It has many different graphics with different activities. We take very seriously about this while we write on the projects, the graphic design of the projects, because we believe that like somehow the users interact and behave with different patterns underneath, and by providing information on those patterns, we can guide the circulation, we can guide their behavior, we can try different things. And this project is that's the reason why it's very graphic, and also it has a few functions, like a traditional function, and some others like this, like a swing, and some others like up and down, some climbing structures, jumping nets. We design in this case the lighting features, and there's also some like this, like some water guns for the summer, because Shanghai is very, very hot in summer. And why not also a hammock? Why not to nap in the public space, right? Under the Sea is another project recently opened. I mean, I think that in the middle of last year. This project is large because this is one of those cases that I was saying about. This is a privately owned public space as well. It's a very large project. It's going through a newly built mixed-use project that has residential towers, it has office towers, and it has also a shopping mall on the top part of the screen. And there's this central corridor going through the entire block. It's very large, very long, and the client hired us in order to provide of this a path of entertainment activities where there's different stations with different play equipment. Chongqing is a city full of hills. This project is located in Chongqing, so this is not in the same level, even different levels. This entire project is in different levels. So you have one station with the jellyfish, the whale, the octopus. There's a starfish located in different parts of the project. So it's rather a large project. Play track, dancing fields, lighting features. This is the starfish that is very high as a play equipment. The octopus, also a fun play equipment. Kids can climb in up to the top part and then slide down. There's a whale tail that is also dripping water. Chongqing is also very, very hot in summer. I think that the temperature reaches up to 40 degrees. The jellyfish is also one of the main play equipments in this public space. This is definitely not only a playground, right? This is crossing the entire commercial street. So it provides spaces not only for kids, but also for adults. Lighting features, all the lighting features were designed by us too. And this project is one of the latest ones that is just being installed in Shanghai. So we were contacted by China Telecom to design this smart booth. And we are really excited about it because Shanghai will soon be full of those smart booths designed by us. And so far, I think that there are about like 30 or 40 already installed throughout the city. But you know, there's I think that about 300 waiting in the warehouse to be installed little by little. This year will be one by one of the old phone booths being removed and will be replaced by this. Why? Well, because phone booths are essentially obsolete. Nobody uses phone booths anymore, and a lot of cities have those phone booths still kind of stuck, and they become like kind of like public toilets, or they become public toilets or trash, like to trash things. So we thought they hired us. They said that they wanted to renew them and embed new functions. So we thought, okay, what can a phone booth provide nowadays where everyone has a phone? Well, it can provide many things, not only free calls from a phone, which is the basic, but internet free, like Wi-Fi, charging devices, free charging devices, maps, taxi, to call a taxi when some elders or some people cannot use the phone, but you can call a taxi from here, and also some fun functions like cameras and a selfie wall behind, right? So we love how this look in the city of Shanghai, full of bikes and scooters. You can see the traditional city, but on the other hand, you have this smaller object that is colonizing the entire city. I think that this is awesome. So here is a video of the booth. It's a unique type of urban artifact, and it's powered by solar panels on the roof. You can see the solar panels there. So taxi service, phone handset, elder security camera, SOS buttons, interactive maps, selfie. We added this fun function just to have some playful function also on it. You can actually call a taxi and the taxi will come and pick you immediately. It's a super, I believe, super useful service. There's also obviously wireless charging, ID recognition, and this phone that you see there allows every person to do 3 minutes free calls. 3 minutes, under 3 minutes, the call is absolutely free. You need nothing more than just dial and grab the phone. So it's actually something rather useful to have in the public space. A cup holder and the maps, obviously. Like if you want to find a place, you can use the map. This is, I think, not the last project that I'm going to show today. No, there's one more after this. So this is one of the latest projects that we designed recently. Sorry, we designed this in 2018, I think, but it was open to public really recently. This is also in a residential area in Hangzhou, city that is relatively close to Shanghai, and it's inspired. It's the same client that asked us to do these projects with the horse theme. But this case, they also wanted a project with a horse theme, but we already did that, so we didn't want. So we kind of didn't want to be that literal, so we thought about the Chinese character. And the Chinese character, of course, which in Chinese you say ma. This is the Chinese character. It's actually in the top of the screen, and it's also in this diagram here. We inspired on this character, and we designed the entire space based on this pattern. And this is the final outcome. Is rather a simple strategy, but by taking this pattern, this character, and giving it three-dimensionality, it becomes really interesting as well. The greenery around all design bias payments. So this is the transition of the Chinese character throughout 5,000 years of evolution, coming to the final one, which is the Ma character, this one that you can see. There you go, is the entire project with different functions as well as usual, patterns in the floor, jumping nets. There's this small amphitheater here toward this green area where people can chill. The pattern itself, the path of the strokes of the character become a track for, let's say, kind of like a obstacle course. So kids can go one side to another, climbing, as you can see this kid sliding down. And also the lower stroke of the character is actually the vertical object in this case, where it's essentially a inhabitable wall. Kids can go up. There's also this sport course, so this not only for playing, but also, I mean, doing somehow sports, also playing basketball, or even we added some for extra, let's say, for extra entertainment. We added some boxing nets. There's a water fountain, and some, as I said before, some boxing sacks. So even if someone want to kind of practice some boxing, can be done in this project here. There you go. And let me, I'm gonna, at last, I'm gonna show this project that is, oh, 1 second. Yeah, the last project that I have to show actually is this proposal, which is the only project that I'm going to show, that I'm allowed to show today, which is the project that is under construction. I just showed you projects that we already built, right? So this project is in this moment starting construction, and we're very excited about this because it's in the city of Wuxi. It's the main square of the city of Wuxi. So we were contacted by the Wuxi municipality to design this main square. So we came up with this idea of designing it under the narrative of a lotus pond. Chinese love lotus ponds, and the lotus flower is kind of something very Chinese somehow. And we designed it all thinking that it was a lotus pond with the stones of the pond, and there's this sky park that is essentially representing the stones of the pond that allows you to go on top and to enjoy the views of the city. There's a children's play area located under the lotus flowers, right? This one, so it's under the shadow, and it has also a very interesting submarine that is connected to a paper boat on top, which again is part of the fantasy of being on a lotus pond. There's those flowers also very in different stages of their blossom. So some of them are open, some of them are closed. There are 12 of them surrounding the central space, which is an open space because we part of the requirements were to leave the space open, right? So that's why those flowers with amazing lighting features are surrounded by are surrounding the central space that is empty. And I think that will be it. I want to thank you for listening to this presentation, and also I want to invite you to follow us in the social media. Thank you very much. If there's any question, I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcial. This has been amazing, to be honest. So inspiring and so joyful as well to look at. And what's really nice about your projects is that they're not only nice in 2D, they are actually nice in 3D too, and that's something great to see. We've been like seeing a lot of like cities that incorporate having colors in their urban spaces, but they like it just like stays on the 2D level. So it's great to see that your projects look great, and they provide experiences from all perspectives. So that's amazing, and they're all also very unique. I was in Dubai recently for a trip, And I was just like walking, and I'm a big fan of your work in general. But then when I was in and I think the Creek, Dubai Creek Harbor, yeah. And I was just walking, and I saw your work there, and I didn't know it was in that location. But the moment I saw it, I was like, okay, this looks familiar. And I went online, and I figured that this was actually your project. So it's great that you do have that unique touch, and you could definitely know that this is 100 Architects work. Amazing work, so inspiring. So let's just, I know we went over time, but I don't really want to stop you. I'm sure everyone's enjoying the presentation. So I'll just jump into the questions that we have now. So the first question was from Connor. How much heat will this radiate during summertime? So is this something that, like, in terms of like the materials that you choose, the durability as well, in general, that materials kind of discussion and sustainability and all that. So how do you look at the?
I understand the question. It's a complicated issue, and we obviously use different materials for different places. There's in Dubai, for example, we had to change the material that we were building our projects, because obviously you cannot use metal, for example, because during summer that will become very, very hot and it's rather dangerous, right? So we have different solutions for different places. But in China, for example, the metal is still the preferred choice for the actual clients because it's more long lasting as a material. Wood wouldn't be the best choice here because it's too humid. So then, although it's better with the heat problem, but it's not good because the humidity will actually make it, will ruin it in the short term anyways. So yeah, there's no one solution. This is like any architect's job, you know, like you need to, depending on the location, you need to select the materials and think how to solve the problem depending on the environment.
Mm-hmm. And have you done any work in like colder climates, like in Canada, like a very extreme cold kind of things, and snow as well?
We only have actually one project now under construction in San Francisco, the US, the closest to that, I would say. But I think that the cold weather is not a problem for us at this point. I mean, in the project in San Francisco, it's mainly steel frames and then steel sheets. It's all painted with fluorocarbon painting, which is car paints. So imagine like it's a car, right? Like that is very durable. I mean, obviously, if you come with a knife and try to scratch a car, you can also do that, right? But and there's nothing we can do about this, because if you want to break something in the public space, you will break it. Things in the public space require maintenance, and that's a fact. And a lot of times, people think that, okay, you design something and it needs to last forever, but really, those things require maintenance. I believe that the way that we are doing it for this kind of weather is actually fine, but because I don't think that I don't see any problem with kind of like metal in the cold. I see the problem metal in the heat. Maybe more of a problem.
Yeah, makes sense. So the other question is that, does your company design design and build, or is it just design, and do you do operation as well?
Yeah, no, I understand the question. We are an architecture company. We design and then we produce all documentation for the construction. But we don't have a factory. We are not a factory. But with all those years of experience and time doing the same and the same again and again, we work in close collaboration with many factories across China. And now not only across China, we work in close collaboration with a few factories in Dubai. So at this point, we kind of have built this relationship and know-how. And because this is not something easy to do. So when you have to do it again with a new contractor, always is going to be a problem. It's always going to be like a mistake because they won't know how to build those pieces. Therefore, this know-how that we build with the factories that we work with is rather important. In this moment, we have no interest whatsoever of having a factory because we are designers. And but yeah, we work in close collaboration with some of factories that we have a very close relationship, and we are able to supply our clients with the best joint venture.
Okay. So I think it's kind of like the last question, but it's like a combination of 3 questions from students. So basically the first is, I think from Alexia, she's showing that her concerns, like when she discusses with the professor and like when she proposes such like an innovative or like too colorful project. Of course, like as you mentioned, the reaction would be, oh, this is too much, or it has to be compatible with the surroundings and all that. So what would be your approach and like in the discussion to like defend that that project, and also asking whether she can use your projects as like inspiration projects for her university work. And the other question is regarding like the softwares that you use in general, and like what's the design process?
Okay, so regarding the first question, that's rather difficult to say, to be honest. I mean, I know there's always going to be retractors, and probably for the traditional, I mean, I think it's also very much related to kind of in university, you need to establish your own guidelines and in order to validate your own theories, right? So probably it's not just about coming with something that is colorful and disrupting at once, because it doesn't make sense. So in that case, probably that requires a research first to identify why we need, what we need, why it needs to be striking, colorful, controversial, pop, so on and so forth. After you have this already established, then you can come with a proposal that is compatible with the previous reasoning, right? I think that's essentially the way to approach this. It happened to me many times also in university when I was studying, that I would come first to the class with an idea that you want it to be accepted, but I mean, if there's no a work behind, it doesn't work. Also, I teach in the university as well. I mean, not in this moment, but in previous years, I was teaching also students from 2nd year to 4th year as well, as a kind of like a kind of like as a hobby, but I was doing it as well. And I noticed as well that many times that the students come to the class with some ideas that look like out of nowhere. So I think that might be the problem. You need to establish your framework first to then be able to propose. This is the first answer. The second answer was, if I'm not wrong, the girl said that if she can use our projects as inspiration.
Yeah.
Obviously. Architects, we always do that. And I inspire myself in previous architects. Nothing is created from scratch. Everything is an evolution from a previous idea. And this is what we do all the time. Every project of us is also evolved from a previous thought, whether from us or from someone else, but it's always a jump from something pre-existent. So it's really important not trying to invent the wheel. It's important to take something that is already good and making it even better. So obviously, yes. And on the other hand, it's obviously very important to point out where the inspiration came from, right? So authorship always. And the last question, if I'm not wrong, was about the programs that we use, right?
Yeah.
And in our office, because of the nature of our design, we're very much of Rhino users. Everything is through Rhinoceros. It's a 3D software. It's very versatile and it has so many qualities. So we essentially use Rhinoceros in all our design tasks. Now, to develop the plans and diagrams and everything, rendering, well, we use from sometimes from SketchUp, AutoCAD, Revit. We use the Adobe package entirely, from Photoshop to InDesign. I mean, you know, when you are an architect nowadays, you need to use all the softwares. You need to be able to use all the softwares. It's not like in the past that you are trying to look for one. Which one is the best? Maybe 3D software, yes, you can actually get one that you feel comfortable with, and you don't need to use 3D Max, Rhino, and also SketchUp. And no, maybe you just pick one, is fine. But after that, I mean, besides that, you just need to know how to use them all. Otherwise, it's not going to be enough.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope that is, I think, helpful for you, Alexia, and good luck for your projects. That concludes our Urban Design Talk for today. I'm sure a lot of us have been super inspired and challenged and motivated by Marcial's insights. I mean, don't we all need a bit of more color and joy to be added to our like daily experiences in cities? And I believe Marcel and his team succeeded in showcasing that this is doable in a very functional way through innovative urban design solutions. So we would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Marcel, for joining us today and sharing this wonderful experience with us. Also, a big thank you to all of you who joined us for this webinar. Your engagement and participation has made this experience truly special. So we would like you to, of course, continue this conversation by subscribing to our YouTube channel, attending our future webinars, and please don't hesitate to connect with us for any feedback or suggestions. It has been really helpful for us. So thank you again for your time, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you again, Marcel. It's been great.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.